Sanisofo, de la Rayville, le Magai a 32. A motlas ga masepala o. So kere MEC re amogetse ebile re itumetse. O tlile ka pula before o tla MEC a ke tsora o kgosi, mara ha ke dumele. MEC o ile ha tla 2 days before MEC a tla mo. Ke ha re kra pula 2 to 3 days before a tla mo. A ipaakanya. So go no go bontsha gore tlo go tshogala mo eventeng e because khale re batla pula mo rutilata. Ne re tshwantse re rapelle khale re kopa re bone ene re leboga modimo ka se o re se boneng. So ke rata gore ke leboge MEC ha tla le nosifa o tlile le tlhogo ya lefapha MEC o tlile le badiri mmogo ba ba tswa mo districting le ba tswa go provinceng. We thank you very much MEC for bringing all your team here and ra go amogela mo Tswaing. This is Dwalkral. Is it reg? Is Dwalkral ne? Ek weet nie wat is dat Dwalkral MEC? In English maybe. Here MEC. It is the hope of Tswaing. Dwalkral is a hope of Tswaing because re jamo re khetla midimo re reka di kgomo tsa rona tsa maso mo re ha re dira sedimo ba ba dirang sedimo ba tsa dipudimo ba tsa dinkumo le ha bana le di challenge tsa gore ba senyediwa but re tshepile bone MEC. So welcome in Dwalkral farm. And MEC, please note that in Dwalkral under the ground there is a lot of water. The municipality or the people from the surrounding areas, they are getting water from here through Ngaka Mudirumulema district. Kama hakwa ba khaso ke ne kere ke le dumedise ke la mogele ba ba tswang mo Ngaka re mo gae ba ba tswang Bojanala ga ke ba bona me botlhe ba mogetso le ba tla tla morago me yara wala mogela dulang sentle le iketleng la bona gore go green ka mo. So a gona ope a gona le tsapa le le tla le fisang pele mo Tswaing la go jwale jele monate MEC o re tlhabetse ra go ja re khotse thank you ra leboga go tlhabile ba a go tlhab oh ta bua MEC.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Mayor, for mafoko a khotatsang ao. Moving on, let's go to HIV and AIDS and communicable diseases. Johannes Marumo from Department of Health. Out Emfa. Tate Marumo. Ke lebogela khalimonyana eo. Ke ntate o re ke mme. Okay. Re kopa o re tsele item eo as quick as you can. Ke a leboga mme.
Ke a leboga moradisi. Ke dumedisa botlhe mo leineng la ga Kriste Jesu. Motlotlegi dumela. La gaitse dumela. Ke Nono Masigo ke coordinator HIV AIDS program mo in the sub-district of Tswaing. And I am with Mr. Marumo, who is the acting director for community health services. He will be dealing with prostate cancer and non-communicable disease. In short, ke tle ke tswakanya borra le itse Setswana ke bo balemirui ke itse ba itse Setswana. Thank you. Reka ke kopa re eme ka ntlha ya gore kgwedi e ya November ke ya red ribbon le bante le hibidu re gopola bo botlhe ba ba ileng ba re tlogela ka ntlha ya bolwetse ba HIV le ba e leng gore ba amegile ka ntlha ya bolwetse ba HIV le ba e leng gore ba amile ka mokgwa o mongwe re ka oba ditlhago ra ba gopola. Dear Heavenly Father, we thank you for your grace. In Jesus Christ's name, amen. Amen. Leka dula mo fatshe. Re bua ka HIV ba gaetsho. HIV ke bolwetse bo bo saleng bo le teng bo e leng gore bo tsena ka thobalano e sa sireletsegang. Ha re re thobalano ga ya sireletsega re bua ka go sa dirise kondomo. E ka nne e le ya ga mme kgotsa kondomo ya borre. E ka go tsena gape go tswa go mme go ya leseeng. E ka go tsena gape ga e le gore o tlhokometse molwetse o nang le diso or diso o sa dirise di-gloves. E ka nna go tsena. Mme se se botlhokwa ka gore kgale le teng re itse matshwao a teng. Re kgaogantse ka matshwao a HIV. Re a kgaogantse ka dikoto tse 4. Re re ke stage 1. Stage 1 ke ga e le gore matshwao ao re go bona ka dikgoto mo morago ga ditsebe le gore ha re go testa re be re re e go raya e re o tshwaetsegile. Ke kopa re ska ra dira phoso la gore ga le mpona ke na le dikgoto mo morago ga ditsebe lo bo lo re ke tshwaetsegile. Test kit sa re jalo. Ka ntlha ya gore go na le malwetse a mang a tshwanang le TB, o ka nna o ska wa tshwaetsega ke HIV o botswa kgoto mo morago ga ditsebe. Stage 2 se tlhasela re se lemoga matshwao a teng re gantsi ke letlalo. Re bona ka diso mo leganong o simolola o nna le manalanyana a mang a re sa tlhaloganye wa bona masetlha a itlheleng ka re ke a koko. O latlhegelwa ke mmelenyana ke stage 2. Stage 3 o simolola nong o nna le TB ya makgwafo o latlhegelwa ke mmele. Re be re re mo stage 3. Stage 4 mmele wa tsamaya nong ha re go sheba mo marapong a ka sengwe ga di sefatlhego sa gago mo ga se re go bo go nna le kankere ya letlalo ba e bitsa carcinoma. Ke dikgotonyana tse dintshonyana di tswa mo letlalong. Mme lo ska lo bala e tlhakanya le gore ka gore ha motho ya kgolong o simolola o nna le dipatsonyana tse dintsho. E ska ra ha mpona ke na dipatsonyana tse dintsho ka ke na le tsone yana o bore ke stage 4. Ra utlwana ba kauleng. Treatment teng re na le di antiretrovirus. Ba gaetsho puso e ntse ya go pele. Maloba ha le ne re nwa pilisi tse 3 e le o nwa 1 2 3 gangwe ka letsatsi. Gona nonyana re na le pilisi tse 3 mo go e le nngwe. Ke pilisi enosi wa ikgethela o enwa bosigo kgotsa o nwa motshegare. Ga o enwa e dira gore go ikatisa ga mogare o robale o ska tlhole o ikatisa and then o bo kgona go tshela sentle. Ra utlwana ba kaulong. And then go na le phoso e ba kaulong ba e dirang. A ke re rona ga re ra go testa re dira HIV test re tlhola masole kgatlhanong le mogare. Di-test tse re di dirang ke masole kgatlhanong le mogare. Yaanong ga o nwa di-ARV o botla go itesta masole ke re a tla ba a seo ka gore go tla be go sena se a se lwantshang ga re go a bona. O ska wa tlogela treatment o bo re fodile ga e fole ba kauleng. Jaanong re rotloetsa balemirui ba rona gore a re itlholeng re be re rotloetse le badiri mmogo le rona gore ba itlhole. Lebaka ko gore HIV ga e tlhasela yaanong e simolola e repitla e ama rona balemirui ka tsela e sa siamang. A ke re ga re bobola ga re kgone go dira sentle. Gantsi ba ba tshwaetsegileng ke HIV motho a teng ga a sa tlhole a na le thangwe mo ngwageng ba tle go tsaya ha mogare o robetse o tla tshela jaaka le mang le mang. Jaanong re ikuela mo go ba e leng gore ga ba ise ba tshwaetsege. Ga o tshwaetsegile a ke re o tshwaetsegile ga gona point of turning back. Mare ga o sa tshwaetsega o re nna ga ke na mogare le ha ke tikela mole something can happen. A ke re anything can happen. Jaanong puso e re diretse bonolo. Go na le pilisi e dirang gore e thibela gore o ska wa tshwaetsega. re tlhole re utlwa go buiwa ka the pre-exposure prophylaxis. Ke yo PrEP mma. PrEP ke yone e dirang gore ga o sa tshwaetsega o le mothonyana wa go hatlega. Ha o hatlega o bo sireletsegile. Ke a leboga mma. Re Marumo o tlo go bua ka prostate cancer ka gore ke yone tlhoba boroko gona anong jana. Ke a leboga.
Okay, Ntate Marumo, a o santse o le teng? Okay.
Dumelang bagolo. A go diphoso a kere. Ke ne ke nagana gore ke touch prostate cancer because ke re ke tse opportunity ke bona borre le bantsi because ha se gantsi mo e leng gore keng borre re ya go di clinicing go a go itlhola. So ke re ke dirise one opportunity gore because borre re ya ka bontsi re kgone go tlhaloganya because kankere gantsi e ama mongwe le mongwe. A ke re gantsi re utlwela hela mo go bomme gore bomme ba na le cervical cancer, breast cancer, le tsa bo di popelo. Ne so borre le rona re na le cancer e re tshwarang. Tshwantse re nne re go clinicing re ya go itlhola. Cancer ya teng re bitsa re ke prostate cancer. Ke cancer ya rona ya borre ya mo serweng sa rona sa borre. Re e lemoga jang? Re lemoga ka matshwao a latelang. Gantsi ra itse ha re gola bomme ba bo mama gantsi bana le gore ha o tlhapologa ha o santse o le moshimanyana o re la ntse o tla gola tshwantse re ha o tlhapologa o bone motlhapo wa gago o ragela kgakala kere. So ha o bona motlhapo wa gago o sa tlhole o tswela kgakala o wela hela mo dikgatong mo ditlhakong tse tsa gago tse ke sign ya gore go na le phoso o ka tswa o amega or o ka tswa o simolla go tshwaetsega ke prostate cancer. Motlhapo ha o tswa tshwantse o ragele kgakala o sa wela hela ere ke tswa go tlhapologa ebe ke tla ke kolobile ditlhako. So ke lone le tshola ntlha leo le lengwe nka bo itemogela ona le go tswa madi o itse ya gona le dijo ya no mo tsamaisa tiro go a tlhakatlhakana. So nka bo itemogela ya no o simolla o tlhapologa madi ha o ya go tlhapologa or o tshwarwa ke motlhapo kort mare ha o ya ha go tswe sepe. Ha o ya go dula hatse o tshwarwa ke motlhapo ha o ya ha go tswe sepe. So ke matshwao a itemogelang gore go ra gore o simolla go tshwaetsega ke prostate cancer. So re checka yang batho ba ba ileng gore ke ba above 40 ke sa re gore less than 40 years e ka se go tshwaetse. Ha o le above 40 no matter gore o na le those signs and symptoms tse ke buang ka tsone ya go clinicing re tsa madi a ra tsayang re checka so se re bitsa re ke prostate specific antigen. Re tsa madi ra romela ko lepe then re remela di result within 5 days di result di setse di boetse ko kelong ko clinicing or ko health center go ka bo le teng then re khona go di analyze re sheba gore a ke di result tseo di ka gore o tshwaetsegile ke prostate cancer or jang. So a re simoleng go tsa matliniki re itlhole bontate ha ke na ke thatsa tata ka bo high blood le bo sukiri ka ntla ya go bolokela ba tsamaisa tiro nako. Ke a leboga.
Ke a leboga Ntate Marumo. Borre bomme famara a modumo ye ko tlase bagolo. A modumo ye ko tlase. Today ke letsatsi la food security. So a re jengela re didimetse. Okay, re tle go move ka our program. Renale an item that has been omitted, yeah, introduction of guests. Kitla kopa Ntate Councillor Haidi Councillor Haidi atle gore itsisi bo honorable Councillor. Asantse asiwo yana ke kopa Ntate Alex Nesangane una le an interview ko radio, please just rush for that. Batsadi iri ke le introduce mo baeteledipele ba lefapha la temothuo, agriculture and rural development. Re gogwa ko pele ke MEC Sambatha. Ke a itse gore ditlhako tsa ka di tona gore nka bua yalo mare re gogwa ko pele ke MEC Sambatha ke tsa gore le setse le mmone akere re santse re tla mmona sentle ko di demonstrationeng re be re nna le mme Budigelonyezi ke ene acting HOD ya lefapha la temothuo Menyezi be re nna le mme Builepule ene o libile ko agricultural support chief director re be re nna le mme Dikolomela ke ene a leadang balemisi chief director farmer support and development o a o ko dipitseng ma okay ke ole and then be re nna le di directors tsa different units ke kopa gore ke ska ba introduce ba eme fela ka maoto Mempele Budibe me director ya ko Dr. KK go na le mang gape okay ko bofelong ke tla introduce our directors from Department of Rural Development and Land Reform re na le Ntate Mache re na le Ntate Mashilwane a o teng gantsa mafatshe gompieno re tlile go di resolve easy re ba tshwere ka bobedi akere councillor ha ise atle ha gona le
Atlanku.
okay ke ba lebetse okay ga ise ke fetse re na le Ntate Mosimane gape Tiludi chairperson ya disability and then ko bofelong re na le our presenters ba ba leng in our midst here. We thank you for honoring this event and ga ke na listi tota e ke tshwereng re na le Dr. Edisani Nemadosi a o teng fa okay ke ole ko morago re na le Claston Sifiti Norwest Corporation okay welcome re na le Mr. Ditoit van der Westhuizen re na le Ntate Setlaba Rapotho ke mo di presenters tsa rona gore yanong re ba itse ska nna gore ga re ba itse re be re nna le ba ileng gore ba lebetse gone yanong they are not in my list. I will continue getting information with regard to that. So colleagues and our farmers, can we move on with our program? And as I said, this is a very long program and would want to move faster and give time for presenters because we are here to gain knowledge and also share more of the information with regard to the climate smart agriculture. So moving on now, we are going to have Budigelonyezi and give us the purpose of the day.
Ke a leboga Program Director, Honorable MEC, Honorable Mayor, MMC, Ntate. Let me take this opportunity ke re ke le dumedise ba botle fela. Tiro ya me ke nyane. And all our presenters, I'm going to try and save time for the presentations because it is an important aspect. Why really more? We sometimes see people planting, but we seem not to understand. Hore, when should you plant? What and how? So I believe today it's part of the issues that we're going to listen to and the importance of planting. Re fana because as a country and as the province, re na le a challenge in terms of food security. There's a saying that goes like this, if I'll quote it properly. They say once in your lifetime, you need a lawyer. Again, once in a certain period, you would need a doctor. And once in your upbringing and lifetime, you would also need an educator. But in the morning, during the day, and in the evening, you need a farmer. So, ke kopa le ipeletseng matsogo, all the farmers, you are important. Had it not been because of farmers, I wouldn't be dressed like I'm dressed. I wouldn't have the kubu that I saw MEC enjoying. I wouldn't have my break. You can still plant and harvest and eat fresh vegetables from your own backyard. Today, as we launch this planting season, se botlhokwa is for all of us through our presenters of the day to share knowledge, to share expertise, especially in relation to climate smart crop, as well as the production techniques. The other thing is that we need to encourage adoption of sustainable and profitable farming practices. Gone are the days where you plant, you grow your vegetables or whatever, and then you just distribute. Strengthen partnership. You need advice from one another. You need to share knowledge. Le ba bangwe ba go bontshe gore ha re planting season o ka season e feng o lemolola leng o tlhokomela leng dijalo tsa gago and so forth. Se se botlhokwa is to strengthen partnership. Nako tse dingwe our own officials are far, but them being far, you have a neighbor who's a farmer who can come and share ideas with you. And in strengthening partnership, we are encouraging babotle di farmera creating WhatsApp group so that when you come across seboko mo masimong a gago, you contact this nearby farmer to come and assist you or just to give you an advice on how to deal with that. Gore o produce dijo tse o re di tlhokang as a country, as a province. With those few words, in terms of my purpose, ke kopa gore we should sit back, relax, listen attentively, because this is part of free education that we will receive from the experts. Mo letsatsing la gompieno. Thank you very much.
Round of applause. And now, if this is a challenge, how can we resolve it? This is the moment. Because our aim is to increase productivity. And how will we do that. Some of you have been supported with production inputs, and today we are going to ensure that there is effective use of those production inputs. So today we are going to ensure that those production inputs are used efficiently. Maybe somewhere, somehow, they were not used properly for you to get optimum plant density, to get issue or ke. So today re tle go buisana and learn or ke. So today re tle go buisana and learn from others by long they are able to get 4 to 5 tons per hectare. Root by long they are able to get 4 to 5 tons per hectare. Root hore.
Thank you very much, Ma'am Guni. Let me take this opportunity to greet the Honorable MEC, Honorable Mayor, as well as management of the department, presenters, le batho ba rona ba ba botlhokwa go gaisa batho botlhe difamara tsa rona dumelang. Ga ke utlwe sentle halala balemirui halala. Lo itumetse gompieno. Oh, ke khona go lemoga gore balemirui ba itumetse. Ha ke neiwa selo se se goang se. Go tiki bue le balemirui ke itse ile batho ba ba happy ka mehla. Alane. It's just that currently I get ba gaetso a maemo a loapi a change currently I get ba gaetso a maemo a loapi a change re sa tlhole re itse gore re tsamaya go seasoning e feng. Jaanong we go back to the drawing board and check exactly what went wrong and what is it that we can do to try and correct the current situation. Really a collective. So the presenters who will be presenting to us, the farmers will also be telling us of the reality on the ground to say, you may think theory says the ground to say, you may think theory says this, but in practical terms, this is what is happening on the ground. Honorable MEC, the only thing buang ka yone today is climate smart agriculture techniques or technologies. Gore re kgone go ikarabella khatlhanong le maemo a ga jana. And I'm happy that the outline of the program, Ibuaga, understanding the state of your natural resources, Mulemezi, and earlier on the Honorable Mayor said, we have more than enough water, mo Tswaing. But then we are not sure in terms of the state of our soils. Then I've seen a presentation addressing such. Without wasting any time, I just want to check if Dr. Nematozi is here, because he will be our first speaker. Dr. Nematozi, you need to come closer. And I'm happy to announce to that Dr. Nematozi is one of our researchers working on one of our research projects on cover crop in this very same local municipality, Tswaing, at one of the farms, Velte Friede of Ntate Boise. So I think when he presents here today, he will be presenting something that he is working on. Welcome, Ntate Namatozi. He still needs time. I was checking who can sing for us whilst Ntate Nematozi is still connecting his laptop. Are you okay? Thank you very much.
Okay, good morning, everyone. How are we today? Okay, if you are good, I'm also good. As mentioned, my name is Edisani Nemadozi. I'm from ARC, Agricultural Research Council, Grain Crops Institute in Potchefstroom. So I focus mainly on agronomy while looking more at conservation agriculture. So when we were invited by our principals from ARC, they said we must go and talk about climate smart related production. So I felt, okay, I work with conservation agriculture, or what we like to call regenerative agriculture. So I thought the reason why there is conservation or regenerative agriculture is because we realize that indeed the climate is changing. The things that we used to do in terms of producing crops in our area is no longer what we need to do, because we realize that there is a lot of reduction in yield. And as such, we need to find other ways of improving yield, because food security is the most important thing that all of us are here. We need energy, therefore that energy should come from the food that we eat. So I'm sure majority of farmers here will agree with me that when it is time to go to the field, the most thing we see around the farms is dust. Is it true? We see lots of dust, isn't it? What does that mean? It means farmers are now plowing or doing seedbed preparation to plant. But then what does that mean if you see dust? Dust is soil, isn't it? So if you are plowing your soils and you see dust going up, it means you are pulverizing your soil. It means your soil is becoming thinner and thinner. Therefore, it becomes vulnerable to wind erosion. So as you continue to do that, that dust that is drifting is going away from your farm. That is mainly the topsoil, which contains a lot of nutrients that you need for your crops. Remember, when you apply fertilizer, you apply that at the topmost part of your soils. But as you plow your soil over and over, you degrade that soil to a point where it becomes less and less fertile over years. And one other thing is, as you, normally farmers will want to plow once it has rained, isn't it? And one of the most critical aspect of crop production is what? Moisture. You wait for rain. Most of us here will agree that we are doing agriculture or planting our crops under rain-fed conditions or under dry land. Therefore, we have to wait for rain. But I know previous season, it was like a monsoon season. We've got more than enough rainfall that we needed. Most of the farms were flooded. It looks like it might be like that this season as well. But that is just few seasons. Majority of seasons, we have dry conditions, isn't it? Therefore, moisture becomes quite critical. But then, when you plow your soils, they become soft, as I've said, and it rains as it does. Apart from flooding, you know, if your soil is flooded, most of the nutrients in the soil will not be taken up by the roots, okay? That's when you find that most of your plants become yellowing while there's a lot of moisture in the soil. But then, as you plow your soil and you do all these planting operations, you expose, if there is little moisture in the soil, you expose it to the sunlight. By the time you go to plant, you end up without enough moisture for your seed to germinate and emerge. One other thing is erosion. I'm sure we've seen that if it is raining and we look at this water that is moving away from our farms, what is the color of that soil? Red, brown, and all those type of things. What does that signify? It means that is soil coming out of your farm. But then we need that soil in your farm so that you can continue to farm, and the generation that comes after that will continue to farm. And another thing is, most farmers, maybe due to experience, will want to continue to plant, say, sunflower. Some farmers will feel, no, I'm safe planting sunflower. I know everything about sunflower, or maize alone. That is what we call monocropping. And we know what happens if you plant the same crop over and over. They'll build up diseases, there'll be nutrients imbalances because those plants will feed at the same level. Some of the nutrients that needs to be taken up remain in the soil. So nutrients imbalance simply means, like as people, they are saying we must eat a balanced diet. Okay, plants as well needs a balanced diet. So base soil, if we plow our soils every time and we take the residues, I believe most of farmers here are dual purpose farmers, livestock plus plant production or crop production or arable land. Is it like that? So obviously, the residues after harvesting become the food for your animals as well, isn't it? But when you take that out, what it does, it leaves the soil bare, without a blanket. So if it rains, it's easy for your soil to be eroded. It is easy for evaporation, that even if there's some moisture, the sun's heat directly there, suddenly the rainfall, the moisture in the soil goes back to the atmosphere. Because as areas that are critical or experiencing most of the season's low rainfall, we need to make every drop count. Every drop that comes to the rain, we must try to capture it so that it can be used by our crops. So obviously, based on all that I said, you end up with a decline in yield. Somebody was saying here that in the previous years, the most thing that farmers were worried about was decline in yield, isn't it? Because remember, you will apply everything that you need, but at the end of the day, the yield is declined because there are certain things that are not working right in your soils. Degradation of soil, I've talked about the physical part of it, where soil will be washed away by erosion, soil will be through dust, your soil will move out of your field. I'm sure over time some of you have seen that if you have put droppers, especially in sandy soil, you've dug and put droppers in the soil, suddenly they are suspended, they're in the air. Have you seen that? It means that soil is taken out. Before you know it, you'll start seeing some rocks emerging. Once that is happening, it means your soil is becoming shallower and shallower. So it doesn't support production of most of these grain crops because they've got deeper rooting system that needs to take water from side. Another component, the biological component of the soil. We know that biology is about living things, okay? So we are living here, but we also have organisms in the soil that are also living. Maybe the easier ones are the earthworms. We're able to see earthworms, isn't it? They live in the soil. Is there any farmer here who can tell me how many earthworms they've seen in their farms in the recent past? Not many, isn't it? Because we've destroyed their natural habitat, we destroyed their homes, and they've got lots of functions there. The less we disturb, the more they multiply and the more they will, cases are very poor in terms of soil fertility. That is why when you apply fertilizer, the crops will respond quickly because there was nothing. But if the soil has got, remember, the fertilizer apply must also be related to the moisture regime or rainfall regime in your area. If in that season there's no rainfall, there's no need for you to continue to apply so much fertilizer because most of it is not going to be taken out by the roots. So conservation agriculture, we think, is the one that can mitigate most of the things, the negatives that I've talked about, because it says you must minimize disturbance to the soil, okay? So you must, even though for us to put seed in the soil, there must be a mechanism. We need to open some spaces where the seed can go in and fertilize, but we do that as little as possible. So that's why we say, my presentation actually has got lots of visuals, so you could see that. Unfortunately, it's not like that today. So there are already implements or planters, we call them no-till planters, that are used for that purpose. And one other thing is, we must ensure that there is permanent cover in the soil, like a blanket, even using cover crops, so that at least we can conserve moisture from, remember, it has rained a lot in the previous season. It looks like it can happen now. But in the next 2-3 seasons, if it doesn't happen, most of the moisture here would have been taken away. But we are saying, if you have got a blanket or residues in the soil all the time as blanket, you can conserve that moisture from the previous season to the next season. So it can improve on the rainfall that will come in that other season. And crop rotation, I'm sure, in fact, some of the farmers here practice crop rotation between maize and sunflower. I know, in fact, that has become conventional system around here. Yeah, then you can also include crops like legumes, because legumes, your groundnuts, but a groundnut will depend on the type of soil. The sandier, the better. Your beans, those crops that are able to produce their own nitrogen, so that when you take them out of the field after harvesting, they are able to do what? To leave some nitrogen for crops like maize, because they are not able to produce nitrogen for themselves. One other important thing is livestock integration, like I said. If you plant cover crops, your animals will go and feed on that. When they feed, they leave urine and excretion there, which is also high in nutrients that will improve the soil conditions. And at the same time, you improve the health, and you're able to feed your animals at the same time. Yeah.
Bagaetsho. Dumelang ko tenteng e ko morago. Ke tshepa gore gongwe ne ba sa lemoga gore re simolotse ka program. Bagaetsho ka kwano ga re utlwane, re kopa re fokotse modumo. Or maybe lwena ga kitse a ba khona go go utlwa.
Yeah, is that. Okay, we call CA plots. We call CA plots. We allow seed to germinate and emerge, while in the places that we vigorously plow, it was very difficult to find that moisture. So there was uneven germination. Somewhere there'll be a little bit, somewhere not. So even if it germinated later, especially maize, then you have got plants that are at this height, some that lower. So when you harvest, that has got a bearing as well. So we feel it is important to say, when we come and advocate for conservation agriculture, because we are a research organization, we must base this on what we call empirical evidence, meaning evidence that is reliable, something that we have observed and measured. So in the study that we are doing, or the research, we try to look at the soil microorganisms, comparing what we see in where we plow, we plant the same crop every year, and where we rotate, we conserve residues, and we minimize tillage. But obviously, what we know now is most of the farms are very low in biological activities. So if we need to improve this, and remember, because most of these lands are bare, the most important thing that we need to do is to increase the residues. How do you increase the residues? You increase the residues based on the yield of the previous year. If the previous year received low yield because of low rainfall, the residues will equally be low. So building up of that also takes time. That is why when we go around looking for funding for conservation agriculture, we say, please, 10 years. Because if you give us that for 3 years, by the time we leave, we will not have seen any difference because we need to still build that. So it becomes a long-term thing. In fact, in other places in overseas, you find people coming on an experiment that was worked on for 30 years. They continue on that to say, this weight has started, this weight is going. So some people go on patient, having worked on that. So also look at the chemical properties of your phosphorus. Phosphorus is fertilizer. Another important thing, which is related to rotation and the minimum disturbance of soil, is root health. We find at times that optimal fertilizers applied, but still the plants are not looking as they are. They are not growing as vigorous. When we look at the quality of the grains, it's very poor. You find that, okay, all the nutrients are there, water is there, but there is lots of diseases in the roots. And when most of the roots are diseased, they are not healthy. They will not be able to absorb nutrients and water within their vicinity, which is why we also analyze for nutrient uptake by the crops to see if indeed these crops are taking up nutrients as they should. Grain quality. I heard there was an issue of increasing yield. That's very important, it's true. But that yield should be of good quality. The health of us as human beings becomes very important. So yeah, we do that. And then another important thing is when we apply fertilizer, it should be based on soil analysis report and on the yield target. I've heard many farmers saying, I visited my neighbor or another farmer, a friend of mine, some 50 kilometers away. This is the type, the product. So we've got something called the 4 R's in terms of fertilizer. The right blend, right place, right time, and what? I forgot the other R, it will come. But that is to say, it must be based on your actual soils. If the area is of high potential, you will obviously aim for a higher yield. Therefore, you will apply more fertilizer than somebody who say drought or dry areas will need to apply less, because even if they apply more, the plants will not use that. Remember, fertilizer is used by plant in a soil solution, meaning there should be moisture in the soil for the fertilizer to be taken up. If you apply it and it's dry, it is useless because the plants will not take it up. So that becomes important. The timing is also important. We've heard farmers saying because they were given LAN, limestone and nitrate, that is to replenish or to add nitrogen that will not have been added at planting, because nitrogen moves a lot in the soil. If you apply it at planting, all of it, by the time the plants are growing, they have not developed enough root system to apply that. Most of it will rather leach. So farmers are given that, it's dry, they are told it should be, they must apply it knee high. Sometimes you ask, whose knees are we going to use? So it should be at a certain leaf stage to say, okay, when it reaches, say, 8 leaf stage, maybe you should need to start applying. But then it is very dry at that stage. Farmers apply, it is not used by the crop, then that's a loss. Or they apply at flowering. Remember, nitrogen says to a crop, grow, 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 okay? Then when you reach the stage where it is starting to flower, it means now it's a reproductive stage to make babies, if you like, to make those cobs. When you apply more nitrogen at that stage, then it forgets to do what? To make babies, and it starts growing. You have got this lush of plants there, but very little yield. So those things are very important. So obviously, one of the challenges in CA is weeds, okay? One of the reasons why we plow our soil is to get rid of weeds, isn't it? So that you have a clean seed bed. But in CA, we say you don't plow your soil. What happens to the weeds? In the first few years, you need to depend on chemicals, weeds. I'm sure many people are aware of Roundup. I think Roundup is a buzzword. Do you know Roundup? Good, yes. So those are some of the things. Before you plant, we have what we call pre-plant application. Before you go and start planting, you allow your weeds to grow after the first rains. When they are growing nicely, vigorously, that's when you come with Roundup, because Roundup is a systemic chemical, means you apply it, it goes with the plant sap. So if the weeds are not healthy, it will not kill them. They must be healthy. Then after that, you go and plant. In the season, then you can again monitoring the weeds, depending on how strong the weeds are during the season. You can apply herbicide again. Because sometimes farmers will apply herbicides when the crop has already flowered, and those weeds are just cosmetic, means they do not really affect your yield at the end of the day. Even if they do, it is not justifiable to apply more of that, because it could be costly vis-a-vis the yield that you're going to get. But obviously, herbicides are high-tech type of things. Farmers need to be capacitated or sensitized in how to use the herbicides the right way, because if not, the results may not be there, or you can harm your crops. So yes, like I said, there are your no-till planters that are available even locally that farmers can use to, if they want to convert to conservation agriculture. Yeah, I think one other thing, what we realized when we planted the last season, there was lots of flooding, but that flooding was mostly in your plowed areas. Because the rain will come heavily, it will form a crust. Then once that crust is there, most of the water will not leave for a week or two, then with all those ponds all over. So you all see plants becoming more and more yellowish because they can't take up nutrients, because even most of your microbes in the soils will die off because they are deprived of oxygen that they need. Most of them they depend on nitrogen to survive. So the most important thing that we need to understand is moisture. Moisture is the catalyst. It makes everything work. Once there's no way that any farmer will want to go to the field if there's no rainfall, isn't it? So the most important is moisture. So once it rains, we need to harvest that rain. We need to conserve that water so that most of that is used by our crops. And it is important to build what we call organic matter, because organic matter forms part of the food that is used by our microorganisms. How do we build organic matter? By making sure that as much as possible of the residues after harvesting are returned back to the field. And that also contributes to what we call nutrients. If you go for conservation agriculture, then you must start small as a farmer. As you gain more and more knowledge, then you can start doing what? Expanding. And I thank you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Nematozi. Sekgowa ka gore se mmereko. Nna ke utlwile selo se le nosi hela. Gore as balemirui gompieno re leke ka bojotlhe go leka go tsamaela go go hetoleng mokgwa wa rona wa temo. I think it's Joanna se se siameng ne. Ba re santsanang re le on conventional practices. We should try to give conservation agriculture a chance. Lebaka ke gore e re thusa thata ka moisture retention, Ha ke tla yana gompione ke bone waterlogging, pula ga ise ene thata. Ke bona waterlogging mo di-farmong tse dintsi thata, di-cultivated lands. Ene ba bangwe ba rona ra itse gore re na le seabe, ga ke go ya koo. So re tlhoka go leka go hetola mokgwa wa go lema. Conservation agriculture is one of the themes tse re nang le tsone under land care program. Ene go le gantsi ga re re tla thusa di-farmera. Mara our national colleagues are here. We are always advocating for conservation agriculture practices. We should rather incentivize those who are prepared to assist government. Ne, go samagana le go baakanya seemo sa ga jaana. I was advised that in our presence we have Professor Pickett Stewart from the Northwest University. We need to acknowledge him. Prof, how little so that they can see. Oh, MEC orientate o tswa ko Makospan. Okay, re a leboga. And then in our midst, we have also our national colleagues from the land care program. And Tate William Makobe is here. Tate Makobe. Ga go na le mongwe yo ke mo lebetseng gongwe ka phoso. Lunkinele matsogo metsing. Our next presenter, this name is very difficult, is Dr. I think is Monzele Otlampakanya. Can you come closer? O ka re ene o tla go re tlhalosetsa ka the right cultivar. Ga ke itse gore a o teng. I intshwarele if maybe, but I want to believe this is not spelled correctly. The other thing antse a goroga kwano e ke utlwile mo go Dr. Nematozi e ke batlang go e gatisa ke the right amount of fertilizer. Rona balemi. Me gape e ya gape ko the right amount of herbicides tse re di dirisang as balemi. Ka gore le tsone di ka tswa di baka tshenyo a ke re ba gaetsho. Ke sone Setswana se ke se utlwileng mo go Dr. Nematozi. Are you ready, Doc? Ore ga ise a siame. Ke a go tswella gape ke le ka go checka sengwe honorable MEC ke kopa go bona ka tshuletso ya matsogo hela some of the farmers that are already practicing conservation agriculture to a certain extent. Balimi ba rona ba conservation agriculture le ba ba sa affiliatang ko programming ya rona ya land care balimi botlhe a nka bona hela ka matsogo ke bona gore a mme re ya gone. Ke bona matsogo a mabedi, ke bona a mararo, ke bona la botlhano. Oh, ba teng MEC mara ke a itse mo Tswaing. Mo Tswaing we have more than 24 CA participants. So ga ke itse ha ba se o kwano ba ile ko kae. Halala balimi halala. Halala, over to you, Doc.
Good morning, good afternoon. It's 12 o'clock. I will go with good morning. So what we're going to do, my name is Buhle Believe, beauty of the land, that's the interpretation. But the short it's Buhle. I'm from the Agricultural Research Council. I'm also an agronomist. So what I will do is that I'll just share briefly on a subject, what one has to do when they have to choose a crop, and also then zoom into the cultivar, those two things. I'll start with the summary of everything to say if you choose a wrong crop, you have chosen to fail. So that's the message for today. if you forget everything that I will say, not the type of crop that you have to choose, and what would also inform you, it is several factors that we're going to discuss. The main thing here is that when it comes to you being a farmer, there is two combinations. You get into the field, you would have received land, either leased or you would have bought it. The main thing that you would have to introduce your crop, plant it, and then with the right environment, if you combine those two, that's what would inform your success or failure. So that's what we have to look at, to say you only don't have to look at where you are, but what you have is end of the season, and so those are the things that you would have to look at. Those would form part of risk. Then those are related to what environmental conditions that would also then have to be managed. So that's where we come in to say, how, knowing the problem, how then do you manage so that you better respond? You know, it's very painful as a farmer to be reactive when problems come in. Now you are trying to solve those problems. So it's better for us to be proactive. The major things that would have to look at in relation to the crops or the varieties that we would have to choose is climatic conditions. We have to look at the climatic factors, what is happening in the soil, the economy, socio-political environment, and also the management factors. When it comes to the climatic factors, as a farmer, you will know that there is rainfall that we would normally see, visibly see. Temperatures would feel it to say it's hot, it's cold. Those are things that we have to look at. And then frost, there are places that are prone to frost. Others, they are a bit lighter on that. Other places, they've got quite a lot of wind. So all these things that would happen under formulated under climatic conditions, they would inform you to say, based on all these conditions, you then have to look at your crop to say what crop would be suitable along those conditions, to say in terms of the rainfall, temperature, so that now you would not pressure a crop that would not necessarily be suitable in a certain area and grow it in that area that is not suitable. The other thing that is important for us is that we have to look at the soil as one of the factors. Our soil has got pH that would say how, whether it's acidic or alkaline. You look at those factors, and then now you also then zoom into the nutrition itself. The soil also has also the issue of enzymes. There is also enzymes there. There is also microbial activity. All those factors, but normally as farmers, if you analyze your soil, you would tell you to say this is how you would have to sample your soil. You take it to us, then would then determine to say how much nutrients would be there in terms of the macro elements, the pH. Then that would inform you to say how do you balance what the soil has with what the crop requires, and then you'd be able to optimize on the yield. The main thing in this exercise, it is for you as a farmer to get as much as close as possible to what you call optimum yield. When we do our research, there is what you call minimum, what you will get on the if you have not done much, and what you'll get if you've done quite a lot. But then you would want to play very close to the highest, because you would have lost time, you would have spent resources. That the minute you do wrong things, you are signing up for failure, and then you are going to lose money. It hits hard on you as a farmer if you've made wrong decisions. So when we come in as a research council, research council, is that we do all these things. We test, we bring data to say this is what we've tested, and as a farmer, then you would have that confidence to say whatever thing that you'll be doing, at least you are more like 99% confident it is going to succeed. The other aspect that is key for us outside water is the economy. Looking at the economy, what would help you as a farmer is not only just to grow what is suitable, to know in the news to say this is the demand, this is what is required, and then you would lean more towards that. Yes, a crop can be suitable, it can grow well in Northwest where you are, but what if no one wants to buy it? So you'd have to then look at the market, and I think that is key. How much would it cost you, the seed and all that? Then do you have transcal aspect of things? The unfortunate the issue of theft. So for instance, a crop would do well, and then they would you would have everything, all the right conditions, but then if you grow next to a location where people have folded their hands, they do not work, and you've grown what is attractive to them, definitely that thing you've signed up for a very big failure. People are going to harvest for themselves without your permission. Those are some of the dynamics when you choose a crop. The other thing is that is key for us. Mechanization is one of the key things. You would have to then look at, do you have enough in terms of what would support your enterprise? So all these things, it's mainly to help you as a farmer to say, should you want to start, you have all this list. It looks like a list of a whole lot of things, but should you neglect them, you are signing up for failure. And I think that is key for us. It is on the management. Yes, you might have the right soil, the water could be there, and then all those other aspects in place. Management comes in handy. Management comes in handy so that you are able to help to minimize all the challenges that are going to likely come. Just to summarize the aspect of how to choose a crop, one has to look at your climate. It's very important. Unfortunately, climate is one variable that we are not able to change. It's what is there, so you have to adapt. So you have to look at that. The minute you go for a certain crop or a certain enterprise, your soils will tell you how much it has in terms of nutrients, then your preference. A preference. Everything sorted appropriately. Those are the defining factors to say, in terms of those characteristics of that particular crop, are they in favoring your what? This is the least. We've done research on that. Other colleagues are working on pest resistance to say you have your crops, pests are going to come, you are going to have diseases. How do you manage that? And then the other thing, you would have grown your crop. At what time then should you expect your harvest? So the ones that are short seasoned, then those are the ones that are preferable because you then wait less for you before you get your harvest. And I think you look at your quality of your product. And then you look at, is your crop adaptable to the climate? You know, the other crops, they meet the climate changes, then you have crop failure. And the other thing, you look at your seed cost. How much does it cost you to produce, to have those seed? And is that seed really available? And the other thing that I will just highlight here as an important aspect, there is a lot of research that is being done. It's called cultivar evaluation. There's a lot of work done by the ARC on maize. Other colleagues are working on soya bean. Those who might want to have more information would refer them to the colleagues that are working on those crops full time. And what I was saying is that as we have climate changing and all these aspects that we are not able to control upon us, let us lean more towards those who are doing research every day and make the right decisions, plant the right cultivar, and then make sure that you ensure that everything is in place. I would like to thank you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Mzabele. Ki buile ka re ga ke a e bua sentle yaanong ke baakantswe bagaetsho Ka Setswana ke re nna ke ritse ke a go tla ke tsaya tse pedi ka Setswana ela tse ke di utlwileng. Ke gore earlier on Pastor Lata le Mme Mguni o ka re ne ba tshaba go rapella pula. Le ka rapella pula le phuthulogile mara le ska rapella morwalela. Even in the Bible it is indicated that there will be floods. Even when plans were made, otswa mo ore re ka rapella pula re ka otswa mo ore re ka rapella pula re ka rapella masimo a rona gore we want 8 tons per hectare ne re be re robala mara ga o sa choose cultivar right mme gape o sa dira dilo tse di maleba mo menontsheng ya cultivar eo ya gago e o e tshetseng go tshwana le ha o netse motho yo se maleba thapelo tsa gago ke Setswana se ke se utlwileng ka Sekgowa. Our next presenter ki Ntate Tlaston Sifiti wa ko NWK ga ke itse gore a o teng kwano or mme ga ka tumela yaanong ga ntse a tumela ke bentse ke tsibusa le bagaetsho gore in terms of compliance gape ga o sa dirise mmu sentle a ke re a itse gore it's in contravention with our Conservation of Agricultural Resources Act ke kgabagantse on a lighter note. Repolo earlier on ne re batla di CA farmers o no seo. Are you still a CA farmer? No, on CA practices. Are you still one of our CA participants, conservation agriculture participants? Repolo ne tšwe ke pula e maswe thata. Welcome Ntate.
Ere ke tšea sebaka se ke le dumediše ka leina ke Tlaston ke tšwa ko NWK. So today ke memilwe gore ke tle ke le botse ka the importance of time on fertilizer application, spraying and planting. So, mara before nka tšwela pele, ke nyaka go make sure gore di farmera ba tseba gore how important they are. Because today read more because of bona. If it wasn't about the farmers, ne re ka se fitlhe mo. And I just want them to know gore re ile sekolong to study whatever that we studied, so that we can come and help them. The big terminology, I understand. We are here to make it simple, to make sure we implement out there, whether conservation agriculture, whether precision farming. So if you are a farmer, can you just clap hands for yourself? Because you are very important. So today, the importance of time on application of fertilizer, spraying, and planting. So, buntu yarena, naku ya go planta. Sometimes I read but can I address an issue you plant late, more especially in these climates. Because ke bone batho ba bantši ba try go ba gapeletša go planta ka January. People of God, planting that late will never give you good yield. I can bet. O ska tšea chance kore le ge even if maybe o tšere tšhelete somewhere and then o bethile ke nako maybe ya gore o plante, o ska gapeletša gore o plante that late, because the losses tša gona sometimes you may not recover sooner. So re avoid that taba ya goreng whether, because buntu ya rena mo re rotate maize, sunflower, sometimes soya, it depends a lot mo kae. But ke bone batho ba planta ba try ba gapeletša go planta sometimes in February. Please do not do that. The perfect time for this area, if you want to take advantage of the heat units, again, because the crops depend on dilo tše dintši, and the sun is one of the most important aspects tša gore di kgone go produce enough food. Again, remember these crops aim ke gore di kgone go produce and store the food in the seeds. Rena re atla, we take the seeds as food for us. So if this agree enough time to make that food, remember gore o ka say you cannot force them. If there is no sun, they don't make enough food, because obviously they work through the sun. The water must be balanced, the sun must be balanced. If the two they don't balance, the crops will suffer. So it is important that you know, for most of us here, if you have been planting in your area, already if I planted this time, usually I get good yields. But for you to know if you have record keeping, you must have your record keeping where you keep your. They say to plant maize is between mid-November to mid-December. That's where you usually get your best yield. Yeah? You should try to not to plant maize in January. And even if you are trying to plant your sunflower in January, please, no late planting after mid-January. At least just not go beyond that. And then make sure that you plant your soya. This is the right time to plant your soya now. Okay. Yes, no, I will take your questions. This is the right time. So let us talk about fertilizer. You know, the right time, the right amount. Around these farms, I've seen something. It's good. Mara, if honale advice elor we cry go farming, I nagi 3 bags of this and impericate, ke 6 ton. Nagi 4 bags of this, ke 7 ton. Again, that doesn't necessarily mean luena. If you got 3 bags of any fertilizer, you're gonna get 6 ton. I bereki so. For example, kita something that is important. Only something but spatial variability of soils. Again, meaning muamu awutshwanelwa mo 100 meters. And maybe katebelelo ya matlo ikano tshwana. Again, mara ore o be sure gore ya tshwana go gore o tshwanetse gore o test mmu wa gago. Again, so I'm trying towards precision farming slowly, because if you see a 434 in one, maybe in brackets 39 or maybe 30, they are not the same. Again, you should know what type of fertilizer are you going to plant, and then when you are planting, when you are programming your fertilizer, you must have a target in mind to say, okay, I'm targeting this much, so I have to apply this much. We don't generalize and say, I've seen someone getting 6 ton somewhere, and then I'm going to apply the same. It doesn't work like that. Test your soil. know what is in your soil. Go botlhokwa gore o tsebe gore mmu wa gago o jwang. Once in a while, every 2 to 3 years, make sure gore wa test mmu wa gago. And then le gona, after testing, o be le someone e le gore wa go explainela gore di results di reng. O re explaina ka tsela e le gore o kgona go e understand. Because kwena tshwanetse gore o benefit gore, okay, the results are so. And then what kind of fertilizers can I use? Maybe you are done with choosing cultivar and then now you're saying, okay, I'm targeting 5 ton. And then check out how does your sulfur level, how does your phosphorus level, how does your potassium level look like, the magnesium, and the relationship ya Jonah. I get. So, someone will explain what do these things mean, and then bags or 3 bags. What are you likely to get? I get. Someone throughout the season, they are with you. I get. So I want to teach you something very important.